So at no time is it likely that a broadcast will go out on CNN for EMTs to respond.
No.
Exactly.
No,
that would be wrong.
So the folks that are listening that might think, well, I'll just wait for the call is not coming.
That's correct, yes.
But
The
the
call is
other
not
thing
coming.
is,
Yes.
sometimes that process takes a little time, and so sometimes DMATs have to be a little creative and come up with their own resources sometimes.
And-
So a disaster, by definition, it's exceeding the resources that are in the area, and
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a long time to get enough resources in.
And if you're not in the area, maybe the best thing to do is go down to your local firehouse, knock on the door, give them your number, and say, I want to help here.
There you go.
How can I help in my own community?
Absolutely.
I want to do
Absolutely.
something, what can I do? Red Cross is
That's
another
right.
resource to call. So the call is not coming. You're not going to be called out by the DMAT to come and help. Most chances are there's very specially trained people that can get there quicker and do better than just an
Right.
EMT looking for the action instead of
That's right.
making a difference down
I-
the line.
And if
Again,
they-
you know, people have a lot of training, they have a lot of capability, they want to help and they want to bring to it. It takes the infrastructure, it takes the communications, it takes all the
There
support
are an
Process,
enormous
right.
number
to
of
make
details
it
that have to be covered. and,
Yeah.
efficient, because otherwise,
So basically,
I
if
give
you
you- I
want to
give-
become a DMAT member, you need to start the process now. So when the disaster does happen, you're all processed through, you're on the team roster, and then you'll get called.
And that's probably true for every
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 organization,
organization has
absolutely.
their own-
Absolutely. Don't wait till time of
Right.
disaster
And-
or
and
an
the-
incident.
The bottom line is, whatever team you're on, when you're going into a disaster, you can't count on anything local. The only thing you can count on is the people that you're going in with, and so you have to have a rapport with those individuals. They have to be comfortable with you. You have to be comfortable with them.
You talked about showering. How would you like to live with somebody for 2 weeks without showering?
Yeah,
okay?
no, that's why I'm not on a team.
let alone 35 people.
Yeah.
That's right.
I can do anything for 24 hours at a time, but in the morning I gotta go.
So you won't find any of these organizations that'll just sign you
No.
up and put you out the next
We,
day.
No.
we joke, you know, that every DMAT team has a snoring and a non-snoring tent. There's
Yeah.
no snoring and non-snoring.
No, they're,
It's all
everybody's
snoring,
intermingled.
you know, and so,
But it sounds like it's a family. It sounds like
It
each
is.
team
It is.
really is a family, but you need to be when you're gonna be deployed for that long and
I think that was one of the things, you know, what attracted us to that kind of thing. I think one of it is, you know, the skills that we've been trained on, but I think what keeps at least me and the team is that camaraderie,
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
working with that stuff. It's very hard to explain to people, you know, why you do this kind of stuff. You have to experience it. you
And
know,
what's
to-
neat is, even though I'm from Southern California and these guys are from the Bay Area, I know them, whether it be because we're on a disaster assignment together or we do disaster exercises. We do a couple of disaster exercises a year, so therefore we get to play with each other and
Lots of drills.
absolutely, a lot of drills, a lot of exercises, so we're ready when the disaster comes and we know, how to work with each other.
With 50, 60 teams, I mean, it's a small world, and so you run into everybody.
Absolutely.
Every few years, you see someone that you know. and
so
Right.
now
somewhere
are
else.
these teams being able to be federalized? Was this as a result of forethought or was this as a reaction to a certain incident?
No, it was actually, I think one of the system was set up initially in the efforts to repatriate soldiers from conflicts overseas. That was one of the original concepts of it, looking even at hospital beds or so that if we had an influx of soldiers who were wounded or so, we would have that surge capability for both hospitals, but for caretakers. But then I think it expanded to disasters and
Civilians,
disaster response and civilians. There's still that component of it. Part of DMAT is still supposedly one of the functions is in a large conflict where they come in, we would be called in. And so that's another part. We talked about the civilian aspect. One of the great parts of it is I've never been in the military, but I've had the opportunity to work with the National Guard,
Right.
with the Army, and fly on military aircraft, some of those other things, and it just awesome experience to see what their capability is and how we can work together in that. So to me, that's been one of
worth the fun.
It is fun. It's
Have
a
you
lot
ever-
of fun.
Few
I
things
got
is fun.
Right.
Fun.
flying a C-130.
Not showering, living with six. Fun?
Yeah.
It is fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I live in Orange
Different
County.
strokes.
I mean,
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
love
say.
it. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, great. This has been a wealth of knowledge about DMAT. I'm actually interested to go out and learn more. I'm probably not going
Disaster
to join a
response.
team.
Don't focus on DMAT. I want everybody to know it's disaster
Disaster
response.
response,
Because
right.
again, I don't want people to watch this and think there's only one way to respond.
No,
It's
absolutely
really important
not.
for folks to understand.
There's a lot
And
of-
the way it sounds like your teams are displayed, pick one. The way you've described it to me isn't something that I'm personally interested in, but it makes me more interested in learning how I can be a responder in case of a natural
Absolutely.
or other disaster.
And to answer your other question about how these teams formed and whatnot, 10, 15 years ago, disaster response was very haphazard. People were leaving their house and just showing up to help. Well, we at the World Trade Center, Katrina, we found out that does not work at all. So one of the things that the DMAT teams in that time has been really tightened up to formalize it. And disaster response has become much more formalized in the last 5-7 years than it ever has before.
Yeah.
And there's specific training and specific, this incident command system, this SIMS, this NIMS, you have to do it properly.
Just
Absolutely.
as 9/11 had its indelible mark on law enforcement, homeland security, that community, it left its indelible mark on disaster medical response.
Right.
So we've come a long way since then as well.
And there's a lot of training. There's a lot of training online. You could go to the FEMA website and take some of the ICS
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. You
courses
just
and
log
look
on and
around
take
your
that
local
straight.
area, talk to your fire department, your Red Cross, or what
People
have
like
you.
Lisa, whose jobs are disaster preparedness, and usually in the counties, there's
Right.
resources that you can contact, to
Absolutely.
see how I can help.
you can
Yeah,
get
all
into it.
all the states and the local EMS communities are all now big into signing up their healthcare workers and their volunteers to be able
Absolutely.
to do
Yeah,
that.
there's
Even MRCs, Medical Reserve Corps.
Medical
I mean,
Reserve
that's a really
Corps,
good
there's
resource.
the community emergency response teams, the
Right.
CERTs,
Yeah,
that are.
we've got a neighborhood
Mhm.
emergency response team in my community.
Yeah.
My
There's-
house has its very own disaster and evacuation plan. It
There
really
you
starts
go.
with preparation. Well, let me ask you this, as we close up, we're almost out of time. Has there been a place you've been deployed to as part of the team that you've gone back to afterwards, and how was it?
New Orleans, deployed to Katrina, and went back about a year and a half ago. I was surprised that not much has changed. It was not as improved, as recovered as I thought it would have been. It was sort of disappointing to see that. The spirit is definitely there, but the physical recovery is not there.
Same thing, Katrina,
Same.
I went about last summer. I went back to New Orleans to look at it. I want to go back to New York because I've been there twice.
Yeah, I've not been back
One
to
was on
Windsor.
my honeymoon, and the other one was at 9/11. And where we were positioned was 50 yards away from the hotel at the base of the World Trade Center that had collapsed and been destroyed. And so I want to go back and see it.
See that.
And
Yeah.
it's-
No, I haven't. I've gone to places, but then I've always gone on to other things.
Other
So
things.
I've never returned.
Any desire to return, or it just never happened?
No, just never happened. It'd be like just recalling the event. I'd rather go on to some other place and do some other things.
Right. Northridge, after the Northridge earthquake, and
Oh, well,
probably
that's hometown.
exactly
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
hometown.
93?
That was 94.
Yeah.
94.
That was 94. Of course, things changed in Los Angeles. They rebuilt very quickly and what have you, and they're
Yeah.
still doing their disaster exercises and what have you. But I have not returned to any other place.
Great. We just had a comment in the chat room as we're finishing. Barry TA, in the UK, we have 8 regional resilience committees. Yeah,
Excellent.
and local resilience forums that do this.
Exactly,
So
yeah,
it's-
that's what I say. There's this,
Yeah, it sounds like each group has a different way of doing it.
Exactly.
And this is the
Right.
way.
kind of reinventing the
Absolutely.
wheel, but there's a
Well,
wheel
sometimes
somewhere.
when the wheels are triangles, they
You round off the corners and make it
go
a little bit
to
smoother.
reinvent the wheel. Well, thank you very much. I think the most important thing we can get from this discussion is not only to go out and learn more about the resources in our community, but do not self-employ
yes,
yourself.
absolutely.
Hold on, let me look
Very
directly.
key, very key.
Do not self-employ